everybody. My name is Alex. I'm the leader of the Green Party of Quebec, and we're out here in Vert du Québec today protesting in front of ITR Labs, which has been found to be doing animal testing, but also breaking a lot of ethical rules and really using a lot of different animals. So there's been people who have been protesting here for, I guess, about a year now. So we're here with Reed, who's from the organization Last Chance for Animals. And Last Chance for Animals is the organization that sent in an undercover employee to film some of the abuses that were taking place, and was able to get a really big news coverage on CTVW5 last year, and that's sort of what prompted the protests that are taking place here. So, Reed, can you tell us what are the latest developments?
Well, unfortunately, there haven't been too many developments as far as ITR goes, because the police decided not to press charges in this case. They decided that there wasn't sufficient enough evidence to constitute animal abuse. It's disappointing, however, it's not a lost cause. There's still a lot of passion here today, even a year later, and it's still getting a lot of exposure and a lot of knowledge, and it's teaching a lot of people what's going on behind the scenes, behind closed doors. So even though we're at a standstill with ITR specifically, there's still stuff going on.
Yeah. One of the things that shocked a lot of people about this case is that there's no real government regulation of animal testing in Canada. Has there been much progress in terms of lobbying for that?
We are still trying for that. That's still in the works. As far as regulating bodies, there is the CCAC, which unfortunately is funded by labs. Yeah. So it's a self-policing kind of system, which is really a corrupt way of going about it.
What do you think the next steps are?
Next steps, I mean, still raising public awareness, and actually lobbying for rules and regulations and laws to be put in place to drive this change.
And I'm with the Canadian Committee Against Animal Testing. So we've been protesting here for 1 year. And ever since we saw the W5 report that Last Chance for Animals made last year, it was all over the news. Canadians were shocked and appalled to see employees hitting animals, slamming them in walls and punching them in the face and things like that. We think it's absolutely unacceptable. There's no point of hurting and ridiculing, animals like this until their death for tests. For tests that fail. So what we want as Canadians is that we would like to have safer drugs that are not tested on animals, because now a lot of scientists throughout the world, even Harvard University is going away from animal testing. Johns Hopkins University are not testing on animals anymore. The Windsor University are completely cruelty-free. There's 38 countries in Europe that have banned animal testing, for cosmetics, household products, and things like that. In Canada, we're far behind because it's still legal. So what needs to happen is that the laws need to change for the animals, because animals have absolutely no rights. When animals are wheeled in the middle of the night over here at ITR, they pretty much lose all their rights, and it's like as if they're nothing. They're tortured all day. They're crying in their cages. They're screaming, and I'm surprised that we can't hear, animals screaming from outside the building, because we're a bit far here. But they are screaming all day long, and it's not okay. And what happens is that tests on animals, it makes for unsafe drugs. So there's thousands of Canadians that die every year because of unsafe drugs tested on animals, just like the medication fentanyl. People are dropping dead from this medication. It was tested on animals, so there's a huge problem over here. So what we want is that we know that labs cannot shut down, because labs are very important, and medications, need to be tested, but we would rather that they're tested the right way on real human cells. Now there's new alternatives. The new alternatives are available. There's in vitro testing, organs on chips. And, to tell you the truth, as a human being, I would rather have my medicine tested on real human cells, because I'm not a rat, I'm not a pig, I'm not a monkey. Animals do not share the same anatomy at all as humans. So we're here also with Rob from 269 Life. He's the one who organized the first protest that we did last year after we saw the footage. So do you have something to say?
Yeah, well, number one, like, get back to the animal testing just for drugs. 90% of drugs that are tested on animals fail when it comes to human trials. So why do it? Like, why are we continuously testing on animals when we know for a fact 90% of them are not going to work when they get to the human trials?
Yeah, it's
like
very negligent.
If you go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I forget the name of that drug, but they were giving it to pregnant women because pregnant chimpanzees did fine on this medicine, but then pregnant women that were human end up having these babies that came out with what looked like flippers.
Yeah.
And there's not too many of them left, the babies that survived, and this is just because for morning sickness that they said, oh, it works great with the chimpanzees, but
yeah, what's good for an animal is not necessarily good for a human.
They even fought about it. They actually fought it in the courts and everything else, saying that it wasn't this until it finally enough testing got done to prove otherwise. But they actually literally took it to court, saying that no, that wasn't our medicine doing this. Meanwhile, people were continually having these deformed babies.